Okay. Gemara Beitza, perek sheni, tesvav amid beis. Perek, it's about 8 of Tafshil. 8 of Tafshil. That's going to be the sugya. We're going to learn it in the Gemara. Maybe after we finish the sugya, we can see in Shulchan Aruch a little bit lama on him. Yom Tov shechol yis erev Shabbos. If Yom Tov falls out on Friday erev Shabbos, says the Mishnah lo yevashel betchila miyom Tov l'Shabbos. One should not begin. Here the taich betchila is not lichatchila. Most of the times in Shas you have tchila means lichatchila. You could do it this way, but whatever you do it this way. Here the taich is beginning to cook. You should not begin to cook your Shabbos meal on Friday, which is Yom Tov. What should you do rather? Begin to cook your Shabbos meal before Yom Tov. That's the Erev Tafshil. Yeah? So don't begin to cook your meal.
When you make the Erev Tafshil, it's as if you start cooking the meal before Yom Tov.
So you're starting to cook the Shabbos meal before Yom Tov. Don't begin to cook your Shabbos meal on Friday, which is Yom Tif. Rather, lo yivashel betchila miyom tif l'Shabbos. Soon we'll see what you could do. You want to eat on Shabbos. So how are you going to eat on Shabbos? If you can start to cook your meal on Friday, what are you going to eat on Shabbos? So first it tells you one eitzah. Then it gives you another eitzah. The first eitzah is not Erev Tafshil. The first eitzah is the leftover food from Yom Tif, you're allowed to eat on Shabbos, meaning you could cook Friday morning for your Friday afternoon Yom Tif meal. The Gemara later will tell you, Zayin, you could even add more meat into your pot when you're cooking Friday morning for your Yom Tif meal, 12 o'clock, for example. And that food that stays over, you are allowed to eat it on Shabbos. It's not going to be considered that we discussed in the first perek, you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tif to Shabbos. But here, being it's already you cooked it for Yom Tif, not specifically for Shabbos, so the leftover food in the pot you could use for Shabbos. You can't make two pots, and one pot is for sure enough for Yom Tif, and you're making the second pot because you're making harama, you're tricking, and you're saying, oh, this will be for Yom Tif and really for Shabbos. That's not allowed. We'll see later on. However, a big pot of meat, and you have a lot in there, and you could even add more knowing because you're just putting on the fire once, doing one malacha, then you can leave it over for Shabbos. And actually, you could even leave it over for the chayil. You could even, and that's what we always do. We have leftover food from that hechitim, even though you cooked on Yom Tif.
That's the haram.
Even though you cooked on Yom Tif, normally you cook every time you cook for Shabbos or Yom Tif, you cook Erev Shabbos. So who cares if it left Mitzvah Shabbos, there's food left over, so you eat it Mitzvah Shabbos, you eat it Sunday night for your meal. There's no problem. What's over here? Here you're cooking Friday, which is Yom Tif. You're cooking for Yom Tif, and the leftover food we're allowing you to eat on Shabbos. You can even eat that leftover food Mitzvah Shabbos. With kumteis, you cooked on Yom Tif food, and you're eating it noch on a Yom Chayil. But being you did it beheter because you cooked for Yom Tif, it's not a problem to even eat it for Chayil. But they will speak about eating on Shabbos. Yeah.
No, so Yom Tif was already Friday?
Friday is Yom Tif.
Oh, so Friday
and Shabbos.
Okay.
Oh, so that's another Indian. If it's a Chutz La'aretz, and it's 2 days Yom Tif,
it was 2 days.
Then there's a shaila. There's another shaila mentioned. Could the Erev Tafshil you make Thursday allow you to cook Yom Tif l'Chaveirei? Because you're also not allowed to cook from one day Yom Tif to a second day Yom Tif. So there's two problems. The Chutz La'aretz, you have two problems. First of all, Yom Tif Aleph, you can't cook for Yom Tif Beis. And then Yom Tif Beis, you can't cook for Shabbos. So the shaila is the year that you have making Erev Tafshil in order to let you cook from Yom Tif to Shabbos, because Shabbos you're not allowed to cook under no circumstances. So you must make Erev Tafshil to cook. Could I also use that Erev Tafshilin to cook Yom Aleph to Yom Beis? I began with it before, but that's not mentioned here.
Friday. Over here, it's 2 days. And then here we have 2 days. That's a different story. But you're saying there's only 1 day Yom Tif, so you can't cook from Yom Tif to Shabbos.
You can't.
Unless you do it, that you make it a little bigger in the pot, or whatever.
Oh, right. Because
you mentioned that you put 2 pots on, that's a haram.
That's not haram, that's too obvious.
But But if you have one pot and the Chacham give permission to add even more meat to that pot, that's the harama. Because you say
that's harama. That's exactly it.
That's the,
2 pots is not harama.
And
No. The
second line of Rashi on the top, the last few words of the Rashi, ubeloya harame, kedikton lekamon, yidzayin. So later tak, it's not going to call it harame. It's not going to call that harame. There's going to be other terms. It's not even, if you're putting more
I'm
food.
saying if you have a pot of cooked meat,
you're
and then
adding
the
more.
Chacham give permission to add more.
What's the haste harame? So we'll see. Let's go to
You're a
yidzayin.
tricky guy. You say, I know I want to eat on Shabbos.
Yeah, so certain haram is like you're calling, you could do, and certain things you can't because it's called a real haram. A real haram is also okay. So anyway, the first thing is he's saying, being you can't cook on Friday for Shabbos. So what are you going to do? You are allowed to use the food that you cooked on Yom Tif. You could use that food for Shabbos. Why would you think you can't use leftover food for Shabbos? Because you cooked it on Yom Tif, and you know we can't cook on Yom Tif for Shabbos. So maybe you should not be able to use the food for Shabbos. Not that we can do it. So first of all, the problem with cooking on Yom Tov for Shabbos is that there are abundant problem according to most opinions. That means the whole vart of cooking on Yom Tov for Shabbos. What's the problem?
You're only allowed to cook on Yom Tov for Yom Tov itself.
Where does it come from? We had it in the first perek of the Hachone the rabbi, because a Yom Choil has to prepare for Yom Shabbos, and a Yom Choil has to prepare for a Yom Tov, but not a Yom Kodesh preparing for Yom Kodesh. Yeah, that means so that's either it's a smachta or it's a limud. But let's follow the opinions that it's only a drabanan. The rabbanon say that one should not cook on Yom Tif for Shabbos. And therefore, we'll see soon, Eilit Tavshil is an Eitzer. If it would be a Deiraisa, if Deiraisa you're allowed to cook on Yom Tif before Shabbos, Eilit Tavshil is not an Eitzer. You can't make an Eilit Tavshil in order to be able to eat the Deiraisa of cooking on Yom Tif for Shabbos. You can't do that. So the whole Eilit Tavshil, the Kos Chachamim, is to take care of another Chacham. Yeah? So let's not get so complicated. One is not allowed to cook on Yom Tif for Shabbos. The Rabbanan said one should not do it. So first in the Mishnah says you could use the extra food that you cooked on Yom Tif for Yom Tif itself for Shabbos. And the second Eitzah is, okay, so for Aval, the third line, Aval Mavashal, the first Aval Mavashal Yom Tif, he could be Mavashal cooked for Yom Tif. V'im Haisir Shabbos. If something's left over for Shabbos, that's number one. And number two is our sugi of Erev Tavshilin, v'oiset tafshil me'erev Yom Tif. You could make a cooked dish on Erev Yom Tif, v'soy mechalav l'Shabbos. Rely on it for Shabbos. So rely on it, like we said before. Rely meaning the whole Gzeid the Chachamim said not to cook on Yom Tif for Shabbos was only a beginning to cook, a proper cooking. If you already started before, I'm mamshich, I'm continuing my aschol that I started before. And being a continuing started before, it's no problem. Therefore, we're going to see later, if by the time it comes to the actual cooking on Friday, the Erev is not there anymore, there's a svara to say, maybe you should not be able to cook. How much is left of the Erev? If nothing is left, you can't cook. You can rely on someone else's Erev. That's going to be also the sugya soon. But the idea has to be that now I'm continuing to cook that I started out of Yom Tif. And therefore, it's not called mitchila. I'm not starting cooking. The whole Gzeid of the Chachamim was, don't start to cook on Yom Tif for Shabbos. Yeah? Now, technically, what do you have to make your Erev from? B'shami oimrim shnei tafshilin. It should be 2 tafshilin, 2 cooked dishes. The halach is not like b'shami. We don't have 2 cooked dishes. No one's machmir to have 2 cooked dishes.
Yeah, one cooked and one baked.
Oh, the bread that we have, or the matzah, the something that's baked, that is an added thing. The main thing is a tafshil. We'll see now with Gemara, the main thing is you have to cook that up. And the Gemara will explain, I think, later on. I'll forget to today, maybe another time. We'll get to why that's tafshil and not a piece of bread. The bread is the most important meichel. When it comes to other yonim, you don't have bread.
So we're cooking now.
Oh, see here, the Gemara will discuss why bread is not important to have. Important to have a cooked dish, an egg, or anything that's cooked. The Shaman says 2 cooked dishes. And
why is bread the most important?
Because lechem levav and shisod. A person gets satisfied from bread. So bread is called the basic food that a person has is bread. He makes a birchas hamazon on the bread because that's called zon. He's really satisfied. He eats it. That's the regular
bread, basically.
So b'shami oimrim shnei tafshilin. You have to prepare 2 tafshilin out of Yom Tif. V'sil oimrim tafshil echad, one tafshil is good. V'shavin, they both agree. In other words, even Beshama is going to say that he needs to have two. B'dag u'beitza shalav shem shnei tafshil. If you have an egg, and if you have a dag, a piece of fish, and you smeared it with egg yolk or egg, it's considered two cooked dishes because you have your egg and you have your fish. So even though it's all mixed together, but it's
and if you have breading, it's already also passed.
If you have, can say that's going to be. That's the two. That's according to Bishama. That would according to wouldn't need two, but according to Bishama, we can have this is also considered two tafshil. Zakter weiter, ochlu eisha avad. If you ate, it was eaten up before you started to cook on Friday for Shabbos, or it got lost. Lo yivashel alav bitchila. You're not allowed to start cooking on Friday because that's called the beginning of a cooking. If the eight you put aside, the egg and the matzah you put aside, was eaten up partially and something kolshu was left over, the Gemara will explain this, not stam kolshu, like we always say a little bit. Here it means bamsha kazais. That's to still be a kazais. But kolshu normally means even a drop, kolshu. Then, soymech alav l'Shabbos, you're allowed to cook for this on Shabbos, on Friday for Shabbos. That's the Mishnah. That's what Rashi in the Mishnah will start the Gemara. Yom Tov Rashi lo yivasha b'tchila liyois tchilas b'shuloi v'ikroi l'shem Shabbos. You should not cook. The beginning and the main cooking that you're doing for Shabbos should not be on Friday. Ella l'shem Yom Tov yehei tchilas b'shuloi. Be'emes, you have to only cook on this Friday. The main cooking should be for Yom Tov. That's the cooking. And like it's the first eights of a Hamashuyah, and whatever's left over, Yehei l'Shabbos, you can keep for Shabbos. As Mishnah will explain.
According to Rashi's explanation of the whole meaning of Tchila, you don't need an end of Tafshilin then. Because if you go ahead and you cook for that day only, and you already have permission to cook as much as you want, more, you don't have to come out there.
That's a two eights. Yeah, that's the same. The first Rashi is on the first eights, leftover food from Yom Tov. Cook for Yom Tov a lot, and then you keep over. I will mevashel Yom Tov ubeloy haram kedetoni come on later without haram, not like making an obvious second pot, and then you have your food for Shabbos. Very good. But if you want to take a cook more than that, then you have to make it. You have to make an eruv. Says weiter.
You have to what?
Make an eruv. You have to have an eruv. Start cooking before you. Eruv. It says oiser tafshil shame eruv to make an eruv. The lashon eruv.
It needs to include.
So eruv is to mix. Eruv is to mix it to include. Yeah. So the word I think the Rambam has a taich and you have the Ravid. The kids of the word is according to the first eight. So what are you doing? The food you're cooking a lot. It's a mix. Yeah. It's a mix of what? Of Shabbos food that will come later and Yom Tov food. That's the first eitzah. Before you make the eidim. So the same way the first eitzah the Mishnah says, Pashat eat from your Yom Tov food and under the verter. In other words, the pot you made here is a mix of Shabbos and Yom Tov food. So too, when you cook before Yom Tov, so on that you could also go and mix both foods together and under the verter. So you're cooking here the heter. You're cooking them as for Yom Tov. Or continue Shabbos that was before. So you're making a mix. But that's not, actually doesn't say the Lashon Eruv. It just says, Oiseh Tavshil L'Shem Eruv. It calls it Eruv. Ubeitza Shalav, the egg that you smear on top of the fish. Shahayu Tachin Beitza Al Hadag. Kishutzelin Oiseh. When you used to roast the fish, they would sometimes smear on top of the dag, they would smear egg. So then, Achle of the was eat up a loss. Koidim Shebishal Kol Sarki Shabbos, before you cooked all the needs of Shabbos. So then, it says you can't cook for Shabbos because you don't have your eruv. If a little bit is left, then you're continuing on that little that's left. You continue on to cook for Shabbos because of that little. What's the reason why one should make an eruv tafshil? There's two svaras, two amiroim. We have the machlekes in our Gemara, right?
A roof tafshilin you make before the Chag?
Before the Chag.
You're not allowed to do it in the Chag.
Oh, very good. We'll discuss this in a moment. Okay, yeah. But we see depends on the purpose. It depends on what the purpose of the eruv is. And whether the purpose is going to be for the eruv, then you'll be allowed to do it on the Chag, or you could do it before the Chag. The halacha, even according to both opinions, you must do it before the Chag. But according to one opinion, it's not going to be so important to do before the Chag. But he says you should still do before the Chag.
Let's probably somewhere talking about a fiat.
Afi is the same issue.
Yeah. It's the same issue. Afi and tafshil, the same idea. The reason why you have to make a tafshil is why not bread, but it's all made for the same idea. And we'll see also when you cook one Indian, you don't have to cook that same thing. I'm cooking eggs. I'd have to make a little bit fish, a little bit meat in order to make a big dish later on. And even for many people, you can make one tafshil and one kazais of a Beitza best, even maximum minimum one kazais even of a tafshil. Thousands of people could share one native. So there's going to be about this in the Gemara. But let's start the Gemara. How do we know you can make it eight tafshil? What do you mean? How do we know? First of all, how do we know it? The question normally is how do we know from the Torah? It's not a Torah they did. So Rashi Bavaran's right away. Rashi says right in one, and Mil says Rashi, Lav Dafkim Kroi. Here in the Gemara doesn't mean we know from the past because we see it's in the Rabban Yolav. Why they do it tafshil the Rabbanon? It's the Rabbanon. The Gemara is asking where do you know from the pasuk. So what's the mother's question? They want to know which pasuk the Chachamim get. So then, Eid Shil, we're going to bring up psukim that will show us the concept of making Eid Shil, but not that makes it a din of the Torah that you should make it a tashil because it's the Rabbanan. But all halachas of the Chachamim, they have some kind of pasuk. They're relying on the pasuk, and the pasuk instructed us to do it. The pasuk did not instruct us to do it at all. Then it will be called a Torah de Kedin. But it was a Rabbanan de Kedin, and the Rabbanan found a pasuk that hints to it, and this is why they're building up their gzeira, their takon.
By the way, I have to ask because I'm very new at that. Rabbanan is Roshei Tevot.
The rabbis, the Chazal.
The Chazal, okay.
Chazal, not the Torah. The Torah Shabbal Peh. Not Torah Shabbal, the Chachomim that implemented new Gzeiris. Okay. And Torah, it comes at the Torah from itself, like washing your hands before you eat bread. Doesn't say in the Torah you should wash your hands before you eat bread. Lighting Shabbos candles, not saying Torah you should light Chanukah candles, Mikra Megillah. Doesn't say in the Torah. It's called a mitzvah de Rabbanon. Then you have addition, and Eid is one of the mitzvah de Rabbanon. Okay. The rabbis, the one is rabbi. The on the middle is the Gemara for the Chacham saying if this din, the Tesh Omar Shmuel Omar Kadir Pasuk Zacher Esem Shabbos Kaddish. Remember Shabbos to make it holy. So that's a pasuk. So the pasuk means you have to be Mekadosh Shabbos, make Kiddush. Yeah, from Rashi, actually, mashma, interesting. Many of the don't agree that Kiddush is min haTorah, Kiddush ala yayin. Kiddush is min haTorah for sure. The pasuk says, "Remember Shabbos and make it holy, make Kiddush Shabbos." But Rashi here says the Kiddush ala yayin is even min haTorah. That's the from our Rashi about them. But that's a pasuk shot from Zochim Zakache. The remez is do something zacherehu me'acha shabol hashkiche. When you're might come to forget the Shabbos, the pasuk is telling you, don't forget the Shabbos. Do something that you won't forget the Shabbos.
Because you're going to be busy eating Yom Tov. Right.
So when it comes to matzah, you might forget about Shabbos. So the Torah is telling you, don't forget about Shabbos. So according to this opinion, let's really tell you two shittas here. The first Ameda says the Eidet Tashlim is Lekovit Shabbos. The second opinion is the Eidet Tashlim is Lekovit Yom Tov. We make an Eidet Tashlim in order to honor the Shabbos, and the other one says we make an Eidet Tashlim to honor the Yom Tov, because now it's Yom Tov, tomorrow Shabbos. I'm making it before Yom Tov able to cook today. Why are you doing it? So the first explanation is to honor the Shabbos that will come later, and I'll explain in a moment. The second one is Yom. What does it mean? It means like this. Let's first learn inside the Gemara. So the first the pasuk is you shouldn't forget the my time. What's the reason? Where will you? Why would you forget Shabbos in our matzah of Shabbos coming after Yom Tiv? You should choose a good, choicey portion for Shabbos and choose a choicey portion for Yom Tiv. What does it mean? It comes Yom Tiv morning. I'm cutting up. I shechted my cow, and I'm cutting up now the different pieces of meat. I might forget about Shabbos tomorrow. So what am I going to do now? Cook all my meat for today and consume it all today. And then it comes after Yom Tov is over. Shabbos, I don't have enough good food for Shabbos. So I should be boiled. I should be able to cut a piece of meat Yom Tov morning when I shecht my cow. And put away a few pieces for Yom Tov, for Shabbos, and some pieces for Yom Tov. In order, don't forget about Shabbos. So what's the Eidet Tavshil? The Eidet Tavshil is there to remind you. Make an Eidiv. We're going to see soon. According to this, you don't have to make it out of Yom Tov. You should be able to make Yom Tov morning before you start cooking. So, according to this, it would be enough to make an Eidiv, put aside food before you start cooking your food to remind you that when I'm going to start separating my halakim of meat, I should not forget about Shabbos. And I was going to say soon that they say do it before Yom Tov already, because you shouldn't be ashamed and forget on Yom Tov. You're too busy on Yom Tov cooking. Do it before Yom Tov. So before Yom Tov, putting away food in order as a reminder, when it comes Yom Tov, don't forget about Shabbos the day after. That's a sort of Rove. Comes Rabbi Yom, that's the halacha. Kedei sheyoimru ein oifim Yom Tov l'Shabbos, kamachem Yom Tov l'chem. Cooking from Yom Tov to Chol is for sure awesome. You can't cook from Yom Tov on Yom Tov for the meal of the day after Yom Tov. This is a chayv. But you are allowed, according to the Torah, to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. We're telling you don't cook on Yom Tov to Shabbos. Why? Because if a person hears it's so strict, you don't cook on to Shabbos, I will for sure not. If it Kol Shkein, I won't cook from Yom Tov to Chol. And then what are you protecting? Covered Yom Tov. So Yom Tov won't be violated. That people won't cook on Yom Tov for Chol. How are you making sure people won't be violated? By making sure even Shabbos they're doing it to protect Yom Tov. And the eighth is Tashon before and the Keteresh the meal before. So this is covered Yom Tov. This is covered Yom Tov.
Rabbi is saying ain't oifen. That's a notion of baking.
Right, baking. Yeah.
So does he mean baking? Does he mean cooking?
It's a quote of Rabbi Ashi's Loshin. So indeed, like we said before, the cooking and the baking are both intertwined over. It's Zel Bazach, yeah? Ein oifen, it means the same thing. In Malachis as well. I mean, the Malach is afir.
Yeah.
But this also means on Shabbos. The Malach is afir. Yeah? But it's all the same thing.
So making it before Yom Tov, it's the better way of doing it.
No, you, really not to cook Yom Tov at all for Shabbos. So really the con is don't cook Yom Tov for Shabbos. And people are going to hear you don't cook Yom Tov for Shabbos, they're going to say, wow, Yom Tov is so special. You can't even cook for a whole day of Shabbos. You still can't cook. Yom Tov is very special. So they're not going to cook on Yom Tov for a weekday. So Chazal want people not to cook to protect the cover of Yom Tov. They should cook for Chol. So they say don't even cook for Shabbos. People have to eat on Shabbos, right? So they made a shilm to make them able to eat on Shabbos. Dr. Gemara, time we learned, this is going to be a shal one time we learned now Mishnah is a tafshim of Yom Tov, the same of the Shabbos. So we have to. It says we should cook a tafshil out of Yom Tov, right? That's the eitzah in order to cook. So this is along with Rabbi Ashi. According to Rabbi Ashi, makes very much sense. You're telling a person, dafka cook before Yom Tov, not dafka put your etel before Yom Tov, not on Yom Tov, in order that a person, when it comes on Yom Tov, he knows he's continuing his cooking from before Yom Tov. Otherwise, it's not good. So, according to Rabbi Ashi, where it says you have to protect the cover of Yom Tiv. So therefore, for Karen, Yom Tiv in Yom Tiv loy. That's the whole purpose. Before Yom Tiv, you have to make sure you started your cooking, and therefore you can cook later on Yom Tiv. On Yom Tiv, you can't put Erev Shem on Yom Tiv itself. You're defeating the whole purpose. We don't want a person to cook on Yom Tiv. You can't put Erev Shem on Yom Tiv for Yom Tiv because we don't want you to cook on Yom Tiv for Shabbos. So therefore, you must do it before. You have no choice. You must do it for Yom Tiv. The Rav, according to Rav, he says the whole word is that when you're separating your meat to make manos, you should not forget about Shabbos. Just so why do it before Yom Tov? Do it before you start cooking for Yom Tov. My area may add of Yom Tov, feel be Yom Tov nami. You should do it Yom Tov. Like we said, Yom Tov itself is good enough to protect that. You're going to make sure that for Shabbos you won't consume all your meats for Yom Tov before the halacha should be before you start cooking and preparing your food to cook for the Yom Tov day. You must put aside Erev Tavshil, and then that will remind you to make sure the food that you put away should be also for Shabbos. And then after you finish doing Yom Tov cooking, later at night before Shabbos, you're able to go and cook for Shabbos properly for that food. But why do you have to do it before Yom Tov? Says the one, you're right. Bamis, according to Rava, there would be really no need to make and cook Erev Tavshil before Yom Tov. And the Chanami, you're right. Maybe the person can be a Pisheya, and he'll forget on Yom Tov itself, is very busy. Yeah. So therefore, we tell him to do it before. The Tana Maisel Mahach, which is what Amiroim, we bring down Psukim. This is a smart. Rashi tells us how this fits in the style of the Gemara. So before the Amiroim mentioned the pasuk of Zochar, Shabbos, Lekadishoi. From that pasuk, you learn now the remez of Erev Tavshil. But the Tan of a Beitza learns a remes from somewhere else. It says in the Teira Pasha B'Shalach, the pasuk says, "Es asher teifu oifu v'es asher tivashelu b'shelu." Meish Rabbi tells Klal Yisrael that you should bake today and cook today on Friday. That's what he tells them. Why? Loshen, what you bake, you should bake, and what you cook, you should cook. Let it say, like Rashi says, Rashi suggests a Loshen. The pasuk should have said, Havel in the Michtav, Hayoim Oifu Ubashelu. To say, today you should cook, today you should bake. Why?
Double
Loshen. So the double Loshen, that's the Remes Teira Tavshilum. There is a time where you could only bake based on something that you baked before. You could only cook based on what you baked before. Teira Tavshilum. Shab, Erev Yom Tif. Yom Tov Chalis Erev Shabbos. So then, Asher Teif, what you already baked before, you could be Mamshich today. That's a Remes. So we can Rabbi Lezer ein oifen al ha'ofu. You don't bake only on the baked. That means hemshich from before. Only what you mavashel before. This is just another smachta. The first smachta was on Zochas and Shekache. The second one was from the pasuk Ashetei Fui Foshe B'Shel B'Shel. From the Rabbanon. Ma'aseh Rabbi Eliezer. The story of Rabbi Eliezer. Yeshiv v'deish kolayim kulei. Rabbi Eliezer. We're going to see later on. Machlekes Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer holds you could hold Yom Tif. You didn't have to eat on Yom Tif. You could be basic the whole day of Yom Tif either with Kul Hashem or Kul Lachem. You didn't have to do half. Yeshua says, no, on Yom Tif you do half for the Eibishter, daven and learn the Chul, etc. But half you must to go and enjoy yourself and have a Suda and have a Simchas Yom Tif. Rabbi Eliezer is the one who holds, there's no need to have, of course you have to eat to be able to survive, but no special Sudas like you have on Shabbos. So Ma'aseh Rabbi Eliezer, he was sitting the whole day and dashing in the Beis HaMedrash. He was giving shiurim. Behilchas Yom Tif, in halachas of Yom Tif, Yosef Katri Shoino, the first group of Talmidim left the Beis HaMedrash. Apparently, it was a little bit early. They left before the end of the shir because they wanted to go home. They wanted to go home to eat. So he tells them, Amru, he told to those that are inside, not like in a way of lashon hara chas v'shalom, but just a matter of protest about those who left. Halalu pitosin. Ashisha pitosin has a very large barrel. That means they have at home large barrels of wine. Rashi describes wine together with dvash and together with pilpulin, with peppers. Anyways, they have a lot of strong appetite to want to eat, to drink, and therefore they're leaving the Beis Medrash early to go eat. Kachiri, the second who got to go and leave the Beis Medrash. Amru, he said, halal bali chovyes. They have, chovyes is a barrel, not as big as the other one, but these are people that have great barrels at home. The third cat was going up. They have a lot of cups of wine at home to go to drink. Sorry, halabali kadin. A kad is a jug. Jug is bigger. Kat revius. Halabali leginin. Loig smaller, like not mamish cups, but loig is a little bit bigger than a cup, but smaller than a jug. Kat chamishis. I skipped line before you. Kat chamishis. Halabali koisos. These are people that they have at home cups, right? And therefore they're going home. The sixth one is going to leave, and Akash explains the Beis Medrash will be empty, and he's afraid that his protest will be to no one. So he has to protest before they leave. And he said even something more stronger, even. Halal Bali Ma'ida. Ma'ida means it should be cursed. People should be cursed. Well, we'll look at why it should be cursed. So Nos and Einabit, but then there still was some Tamid Nataka stayed over. Nos and Einabit Tamidim. He looked at the left, or they also were scared they're going to get to a chelik from the blessed right, even though they weren't going to leave. Maybe he suspected if you're going to leave. So they started. So his chilup mishtanin. So his chilup paneim mishtanin. Their faces started to change colors. They're afraid they're going to get insulted or embarrassed from the psak from their rebbe. Amalehem, he told them, Banai, my sons, my children, loy lechem ani oimer. I wasn't speaking about you that are here. Now, why should they even think speaking about them? They didn't leave yet, but apparently they thought that he was directing his wrath at them. Before Hashem explained the kitzur, because maybe they thought that some people say for Ketab, Blessed is angry that he didn't want to leave the Beis Medrash first of Blessed. So maybe he himself had to go home to eat, and he has to come Simchas Yom Tiv. Maybe he thought, Manashech, if you're going home to eat already, to kind of mitzvah. So if you're from that type that's staying in Beis Medrash the whole day, you learn to they're fine, very good. But if you're going away to eat, that means you're part of the group who goes to eat. You should go even earlier because we can't sit earlier. If you follow Rabbi Yeshua that you have to be Mesamech and Yom Tov and have some food and drink, why are you saying later should go even earlier? None of us, I thought you're from the one staying Mesamech, so if you can stay the whole time, then say, look, but now that you're leaving, so you should have even left earlier. Let's look we'll look at the Rashi in a moment to see, but that's going to be that's the story. So he told them, I'm not angry at you, I'm angry at those that left. Now what's wrong with leaving to go eat? Dr. Razeh says, they're letting alone leaving the life, the everlasting life of Torah, and they're going to be Isaac Chayishah. What's food and drink? It's only something temporary. Other Gemaras, this word is said in Tefillah. There's once an Amidus, another made a davening very long. He was davening and he didn't go to the shir because he was Ma'arich with Tefillah. So Animi says he called Tefillah Chayishah, not Chayi Olam, because you daven for your tzorachim, it's also Chayishah. Unfortunately, what it means here is referring to Pashat Achilas, Yom Tiv, to refer to as Chayishah. In fact, the Gemara was Simchas Yom Tov mitzvah. What do you mean Chayishah? It's a mitzvah. They're going to do a mitzvah. Yeah? And you have to, so it's a blessed time, a blessed holds like his time. A blessed holds Simchas Yom Tov Rishus. It's not a mitzvah. It's a machlekes time. We're going to learn now. If Simchas Yom Tov, that means rejoicing on Yom Tov in the Gashmistic way, is it a mitzvah or it's optional? The tiny word that Rabbi says, a person should not involve himself in Yom Tov only. Either he eats and drinks, or he sits and learns. I'm sure says, you could split your day in half. Half for Hashem and half for you. Interesting, doesn't say in our Gemara, but it brought in other Gemaras that comes to Shavuos. Even Rabbi Eliezer agrees. Even Rabbi Eliezer agrees that be'inon nami you also have to have lachem, also have to eat on Yom Tov. Why? Because Shavuos is a great. Hashem gave the Torah, such a great day. Therefore, even then you have to have some kind of simcha begashmis. Of course, the Rebbe discusses the Torah. The simcha of Torah should not be Torah. And you have the whole husband of bringing kedusha. The whole mind about Torah was bring alim tachteinu, but that's not for our Gemara. Right? Yeah. So he says. So that's it. And they both learn from the same Gemara. They both learn from the same pasuk. That means no. Let's go right there. No, we skip the part. Sorry, should tell him to go back. Yeah, I'm sorry. We still feel like we will go. Okay, sorry. We skipped a few lines. Okay, let's go back. Dr. Razeh. I'm starting cooking in there. So when you left, when they went to eat, the last group, when they finally were given the right to go eat, because they have to eat, even on Yom Tov, no one says you should fast on Yom Tov, you have to eat. But then he told them you cannot stop eat regular food, you should not eat even fatty food. Yeah. Let me tell the person, go eat fatty foods, and drink sweet drinks. And send gifts really means for those who don't have. Gemara will discuss what's lashon ein nachin loy, but those who don't have food, take care to give to poor people also food. Ki kodesh hayom adinenu, because there's a holy day for Hashem, for our master. Al ta'atzu, don't be depressed. Ki chedvas Hashem himuuschem, because the rejoicing with Hashem is going to be your strength. The Gemara later in the Galit will give us a breakdown and explain us what the pasuk means exactly. Oh my man, will be before Shem nechayim is the chayisho. In fact, the Gemara was simchas yom tiv mitzvah. So how can you say it's a chayisho? Abelazar tav yom tiv yom tiv shuz yitan abelazar eimer ein lo adam yom tiv ela eich which is a yeshu v'sheina b'shu eimer chulkeyu chet l'shem chet l'chem. On Rabbi Echron says Shnei and both of these are Tanoim Mikra Echad Darshu. They both dash in one pasuk. It should be a day of stopping to work. It should be for who? A day of rest for Hashem. Because of Echadim, it says it should be for you. So what does the pasuk mean? Should you be involved only in ruchnistic things like Hashem or Gashmis? Rabbi Lezer says, "Oi." The pasuk is saying, "Oi, oi." Oy kul Hashem, oy kul lachem. That means it's a little bit shver before Hashem discusses, because whenever you have two psukim that contradict each other and you have a way out, you never have an option where you're saying you're disregarding one pasuk, because according to Rabbi Lezer, one pasuk will always be disregarded. That's not called a compromise. You're not satisfying the explanation of both psukim. But let's go right to the Vayla just to make a order of Amos. But so he said the pshat is or kul Hashem or kul lachem. The pasuk tells us no, you can have both. Okay, let's end this ma'aseh for Rabbi Lezer. He mentioned a pasuk in Ezra. It should have said le'ein loy. Give gifts to those who don't have. So here's the reason why I bring the whole story down, because of this word. So Amar Rab Chista Lemi Shaloi Hiniach Eruv Tavshil. Lacher means he didn't prepare himself. So that's the remes they have Tavshil from this pasuk in Nehemiah.
I was wondering why you give him gifts on Yom Tov. You give before Yom Tov.
Before Yom Tov. Okay, but maybe
this makes sense. Are you giving them on Yom Tov
because they
can't cook?
Yeah. No, but also here, even while you're there, you're writing people. But even a person doesn't have a person you should have had ready before Yom Tov ready. Indeed. So now the pshat is nachilei means it wasn't good for him. It wasn't prepared for him. Pshat was says you explain here. What does it mean? The person didn't put it to shul. Some people say a person was not able to put it to shul. And Rashi says, for example, he was busy a whole lot of Yom Tif. He was busy looking for an Aveda. So he can ask him. But then Imam Shah man, a person that was able to do it. He was a whole out of Yom Tif. He was home doing other things, but he didn't do it. He's a Pesheya, and therefore he's not to be helped. Like we see later in the Gemara, I don't forget to do it today, if a person forgot to do it and he came to Mar Shmuel, and it tells him I forgot, so he says, okay, but he made Mar Shmuel. We always make an our Lashon, it's for the whole Kehillah. The Lashon we say is, we're making it for everyone else. That's right. It's good. Someone else should be kind, because if you're doing it for yourself, you don't have someone to be kind because it's doing it for yourself. But he's like being kind for the whole kill. So therefore, but if a person did it once, he forgot, fine, but not a second time or a third time, he's ready to Pesheya. You have to know you're negligent. You can't be negligent and later on, okay, we're going to save you. You should have paid attention out of Yom Tov, make sure you take it, make an out of Tavshil. So if a person talking about forgot once, he's not a Pesheya. But if he's forgot, he's a repeat offender, then we say he's a peshay, and therefore the aid does not go on him, and he can't eat. He can't make food at Yom Tov. He has to go to someone else's meal to eat the other person's food, but he can't cook his own food on Yom Tov for Shabbos. So the lashon, the remes from ein nachin loy is for Erev Tavshil, only for the peshay. My next part was my chedvas havai Hashem hi mu'uschem. The rejoicing of Hashem is your strength. What does this mean? Rabbi Yisrael tells to the Yidden, "Banai, my children, love walai. You should take loans, borrow money if you don't have money for Shabbos and Yom Tiv. Love walai. The kiddush ukdushas hayom be mekadosh Shabbos by eating and drinking on Shabbos and Yom Tiv. Ve'minu bim, trust in me, v'ani peireya, and I will pay you back." The famous lashon, love walai, v'ani. Love, like I'm going to pay you back.
The rabbi that we learned till now.
Yeah.
Before you got some answer though. The machlekes of rabbi.
Yeah.
This is rabbi Bar Shimon, no?
No. Rabbi Agadol. Rabbi Agadol is Rabbi Hurkanus.
This is rabbi
Eliezer. Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. Shimon is nicht Eliezer. Eliezer on Ayud. Das mit Ayud, ja. Yeah, that's Eliezer mit Ayud.
Eliezer Bar Shimon.
What is the Bar Shimon?
It says Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Bar Shimon.
Where? 1 minute. This is another. Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Bar Shimon.
This is nicht Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
No, this is L'chayriya, but Eliezer Bar Shimon. Just attack normal. It's Eliezer Bar Shimon. But before Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shua was Rabbi Eliezer Agadol. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shua. This is all the man of Rabbi Kiva.
See, the ganze Asolia passt von Rabbi Eliezer Bar Shimon. What is that to go to eat? Sit to learn.
Yeah. But here's Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan is an Ameira. Sure, Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. So it's Mamish Rabbi Yechanan is the first. So Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon is going to be the Rabbi Shimon. So Shimon is the Tate von Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. So Rabbi Yechanan says in his name, Mamish, he heard it in his name. So there's a mole. You have Rabbi Yechanan Shimon Yechoy. You have many times. So first, Rabbi Chanano writes over there. He never saw Shimon Yechoy. It was a whole different generation. So he had more Kabbalah from him. Not Mamish heard it from him. But here it's Rabbi Yechanan, also Rabbi Shimon Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. So also the child of Rabbi Shimon Yechoy is Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar without a Elazar. Didn't pay attention. This I cooked him before. Okay. This is the Rabbi Shua Rabbi Eliezer.
Yeah, over here, Elazar is talking without a yud.
What?
The Elazar of Shimon is without a yud.
Where? By you in the Gemara?
Yeah, I'm going to be Yechlim Shimon Elazar of Shimon.
I have Rabbi Eliezer with a yud. Let's see. Yeah, but you have it. But you have it. But there is also.
Das
What is it by also? So Mustama, this is the right one. The later, this is the newer Gemara.
This is the free. Yeah. This is the older one.
Yeah, so it comes out. No, here you have a Eliezer also by you.
Over the year.
Yeah, with you.
But in the beginning, Rabbi Eliezer with a yud.
Yeah, that's
the beginning of Eliezer's B'tayud. Yeah.
Yes, this.
And Elazar Shimon makes sense.
Elazar Shimon, but okay, these are if I cooked on these but interesting that there wouldn't even be a star over here to tell you if it's Agirsa, because you usually have this. Okay, right. Okay, so what is Rabbi Shimon that love will lie, take loans of the kid shook to shave a minu bivani, but I'm going to pay back. Right, tastes on top, very important tastes. I mean, it's discussed also.
Same thing by Shabbos, it tells you take a loan by Yom Tov, but by Shabbos.
Also, yeah. Love alive vani perek.
Not by Shabbos though.
Love alive perek. Hold on, psach ma say Shabbat chachoil. Says tastes. Lochem Shabbos it says I say Shabbat chachoil. Al tarach lebriyes. Oh, it's not a statement. Yeah, so it's not. He didn't answer kan Yom Tov kan Shabbos. No. Shabbos and Yom Tov both Chazal apply. I say Shabbat Cho v'Yom Tov Cho Choy, and also Shabbos and say Love Arapipere. The word is you don't have collateral. If a person has no collateral and he's not going to take a loan and they should give him a nest, no, I say Shabbat Cho. Let your Shabbos be a weekday. Don't have food, but don't have to ask someone else for a loan. If you have your own some nechasim, even if you're not planning to redeem it to pay back your loan. But worse comes to worse, if you don't have, you could always take from your collateral. Then it says, take a loan, David will take him. If you have nothing, zero, Stam take will be same. The Chazal say don't do that. That's going to help. That's how you reconcile both.
Even on Yom Tov.
Yeah, make it a different Shabbos Yom Tov. Yeah. Shabbat is Lashon. Right. Weiter Elazar, yeah, with Ariut. Shimon. Reit says she's kind of he mentioned this member for Rabbi Yochanan Mishum, so then the Gemara Bepashtus says other members that are perhaps not even related to what the sugi of our Gemara, but that's the style of the Gemara, right? He mentions about one, that's right. So what Rachel she's kind of a person wants as a chosim should stay. That means he has a field, he wants it to be productive and things should not get lost, it shouldn't get ruined. Yita behem ador. Ador is the name of a tree. Ador is a tree that has a lot of leaves and branches to it. So
what tree does it call over
there? Plant ador to the bottom of the Amid. What? Okay.
An eder tree.
Doesn't say it.
The same word.
There's not a translation.
It's not adder. The word is eder tree.
Rashi says, Elon Choshevu, it's a Choshev tree. Yesh lo Yishem L'Merachik has a name from far because everyone could see it. Only people are going to say.
The text was Idra, the Idra tree.
2, 3, 4. 4 lines from the top of the big lines of Rashi. Yeah. Yita Behem Eder.
The same thing, Eder tree, Idra tree.
Yeah, let's look at the Rashi.
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, Rashi is not that big. That's the Rashi. Elon Choshev, a Choshev tree, who Yesh loy shem limerachik as a name from very far. People get plain yesh loy eder b'sadeyu. This person has this eder, and therefore
it's like a fence to use it to let the ganranim shouldn't come into.
That's going to be soon. Yeah, that's going to be soon. But for here, so how is it going to protect you in a chosim if you have this tree? Being a choshev tree in your field, people know and identify that as your field. And with the umitoich kach, because of this, he nikreis al shmoi. Everyone knows, oh, this Chaim Yankel, he has his streets in his field. If he goes overseas, someone came to his field to make a chazak and wants to steal the field from him. Many Eidim, they say it was his field because he is very clearly identifiable to be his field because he has this interest in choshev tree. If he sold the field, everyone's going to know sheni. So being for them, the Torah will be very clear. It's public knowledge that this is a very choshev field because that's a choshev tree. The pasha needs a Torah to build it, to have this tree in your field. What's the emes for the Torah? Says the Gemara. Shenemar adir b'morim Hashem. The pasuk says adir b'morim. Adir means strong, the strength. And morim Hashem is adir. So this will keep your nechasim strong. Rashi kaleimar. she'ador eder loshen kiyum b'chezek v'chein nikra ador eder from the loshen of ador strong strength. Or inami, the loshen ador not from the word strength, but adoro. Adoro means doi, generation. Kishmei, like it's called shmei. The Amirinshi people say, my edre. What's the edre? The kaimel dori. It's going to stay from generation to generation. It means the same explanation before, but just the thought is either it's called edre because of the word adir, or it's called edre from the word of doir. It stands for generation to generation. This is what we spoke before. Fila has an edre. Ein exels is not going to be stolen. Ve'enot nechmeses. It won't be a chamson. It's someone who steals by forcing, we paid by forces you. Pedesel and Ishmarim and its pedestals are guarded, are why, like we said before, Swadas over here. One is either the branches create this type of fence, or it says the odor coming from the tree itself chases away the different insects that want to come to eat up the fruits and the vegetables. Let's see here, Rashi says the difference between a chamson and a gazlon. Chamson yohiv domi. A chamson is also a thief. What does he do? He forces you to sell it to him. He takes your object and pay, and you don't want to sell it. He gives you money for it. And the gazlan push takes it, doesn't pay anything. Alekech with strength. V'yesh kol davar v'hayei me'machar mezmin lebezin. He's going to be called the bezin to return it. Next page 7. How the paid is guarded. Says Rashi lo yadana mahi. That doesn't know how if you have an eder tree in your it won't be stolen. What's the connection? Or how the pay is going to be? No, how the pay is going to be guarded. Yes, before some people say, you put it, you plant it on the boundaries of your field. It has a lot of branches. It's become like a fence. You need a shurash. It's a choshuv type of a plant or grass. And it mixes the seeds, mix them with the peiris. Soda, love comes. Speaking about a soda of love means of wheat. The tfu becomes from from insects and chemicals that come. So it has in the mavrichon. The reich of this zera makes them run away. These insects and animals are coming to eat up the food. The tfuah goes with a hergon and also kills them. So today we have chemicals. Like today you have this type of what do they do? They spray the field to make them go away. But this is something that then, yeah. Okay, let's go back to the Gemara. Sagt the Gemara weiter. Toni Rav Tachlifa Achve the Rav Noi Chuzo. Rav Tachlifa, the brother of Rav Noi from the city of Chuzo, said, "Call very famous Chazal, very important Chazal. Call Mizay Noisov Shalodom Ksuvin Loi." Rosh Hashanah, Goy Sabach, Rosh Hashanah, Ada Shoshana. Lashon in the Gemara, Adim Kippur. All the mitzvahs of a person was designated for him between Shonim Kippur. So whatever we're going to daven after Shonim Kippur won't help us in Tzad Parnasa. The money was set aside. There's no getting more money from the Eibishter. Therefore, Rashi explains to us what you do with your money. He says Rashi, Kol Masha Osidli Hishtakel B'Shana. Whatever you're going to gain this coming year, Sheyei Nizayin Misham Kotzuv Loi Kach V'Kach. So wherever you're going to get your money from, it was designated, set aside. This and this amount you're going to have. You're going to gain in this year. But you should be careful. Don't spend a lot of money on certain things because you don't know. You're going to eat up. You can't say, "Well, tomorrow I'll get more money." There's a certain amount the Amish gave you this year. You're not going to add to you, and it's only what they designated you're going to get. You're not going to have anything more. Chutz says the Gemara back to the Gemara. Besides, Meitzah Shabbos is Meitzah Yom Tiv, Meitzah Bano Talmud Torah. Besides the expenses for chinuch of your children and the expenses for Shabbos and Yom Tiv, meaning if you're going to spend on Shabbos a lot of money, you're not taking away from the budget that was set aside for you from the Eibush and Shonim Kippur. And if you're going to spend a lot, you'll make sure Hashem will give you more money to cover those costs. If you're spending very little for Shabbos, you get little to cover the cost of Shabbos. You'll have a lot more.
You might as well spend.
Interesting. In Hilchis Chodesh, there's a discussion. Is Sudas Rosh Hashanah? Is Sudas Rosh Chodesh? Is it didn't have a Suda? We know we have a Suda Rosh Chodesh. We should have a Suda. So their attack is correct to this. So they say that according to this, Sudas Rosh Chodesh, according to that, is also called Sudas Yom Tov. So you can spend the Sudas Rosh Chodesh also in Hilchis. You have a discussion about it based on the sugya if Rosh Chodesh is also included in Sudas Yom Tov or not. Because it says it's Shabbos Veitzah Yom Tov. Says Gemara weiter, my crow. Where do we see the pasuk that the Shoshana, the Eibush decided what we're going to have this coming year? So it says, of course, we down for the Eibishter judges us. We see the Rosh Hashanah. This is what happens on Rosh Hashanah. The Tikka B'Cheder Shofar, the pasuk isn't telling him you should blow shofar on the Chodesh, like Kesa, L'Yom Chageinu, the day of Chag, the day of Yom Tif. Blow shofar on a Chag, that the Chodesh, meaning Chodesh is another word for the moon, is hidden. What Yom Tif? Because all other Yom Tovim is Tes Vav or Vav Zay, mid-month or middle, but not Miskasa. The only Yom Tif, this is a reference to who? The reference to the Shoshana. What's the point of saying this? We know the pasuk says clearly, blow shofar on Aleph Chedesh Hashvi. So the pasuk is not telling us to blow shofar. We know that already. The Hemshach HaKosov is you should know on when you're going to blow shofar on this and this day. You should know Ki Choik L'Yisrael Hu Mishmar L'Kei Yankel. That's going to be the Chiddush. Now this day of Shoshana, it's going to be normally the Choik day. There's going to be a Choik L'Yisrael. What's Choik L'Yisrael? It says in my mashma. What do you see from the pasuk? Choik the Hay Choik L'Yisrael the Mezainu. Choik L'Yisrael, the Mezainis for Yisrael, Hashem is judging. Elikei Mishpat Elikei Yankel, the God of Yaakov, is judging the Choik for the Yisrael. Choik means the food for Yisrael, the Mezainis. My Mashna, Choik L'Yisrael, the Mezaina. What do we see in Tanakh that the word Choik is referring to Mezainis? Two psukim. The Ksiv, you have a pasuk, we can have soup. It says, V'achlu as chukam. When it comes to Yosef, when there was a famine in Mitzrayim, and the Kohen and the priests of Mitzrayim had their portion of food, the Lashon of the pasuk is v'achlu. They should eat chukam, their portion of food. So we see it's referred to. Asheros lehem pari. This pasuk at the Yifeinu lechem chuki. Pasuk says in Mishlei, you will eat the lechem chuki. Is calling lechem chuki. So there we see it's called lechem. We see the dilemmas that the Eibishter judges our mezainis on Rosh Hashanah. All the days of the week he would eat l'kavod Shabbos. What is it? Matzah behema, no, he found a nice behema. Amen. Zul Shabbos should be for Shabbos. Okay, so he didn't eat Sunday for Shabbos yet. But matzah cheres noime, he found another one nice, better than it. Meniach es hashniya v'oichel l'sheina. Meniach means he left. Meniach es hashniya. He left the second one for Shabbos. He ate the first one, and on the first one that was supposed to be for Shabbos, a very choice fat animal. What did he do? He ate on Sunday then. Doesn't matter. He ate Sunday Shabbos food. That's the word. I should explain this way. What was his midah? Shekol ma'asim shem shemayim. Not that Chashom Shabbos ma'asim we're not, and not that Hilul's ma'asim we're not for Shabbos. First, we explain how each one has the aveda, but not pshat that Chashom Hilul neglected Shabbos, and Shammai had a question of emunah Chashom and shem shemayim. But the Devar, this is his kavan aveda. Shekol ma'asim shem shemayim. Shenema baruch Hashem yom yom. He relied that Friday morning or Thursday before Professor Shabbos, Hashem will give him his mezainis. He'll give him a nice piece of meat to eat. Then he doesn't have to think Sunday about Shabbos. Let's finish up until 2 dots, and then it was getting late. Look, Tanya Navach also the Braysos. It says Oimrim Michad Shabeich l'Shabteich. From the first of your week should be Hashem's. You know that's Misham. Yeah, Michad Shabeich. It's from the word Shavua, from your Shabbat, your week, from should be your Shabbat. Yeah, so that means you're eating. I should touch it this way. So you're eating. Yeah. Me'echod b'Shabbat shalchot at Shabbat. Tein lipchot. Pay attention to Shabbos haba, the upcoming Shabbos. It was Hillel Amirim. Hillel say before it was Hillel and Shammai itself, right? And here's the Beis Hillel. Before it was Hillel and Shammai itself. Now it's Beis Hillel. Okay. Beis Hillel Amirim Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, as mentioned before. Amar Rab Chanina Hanoisen Maton L'Chaveire Ein Tzarich L'Idiyah. If a person gives a gift to his friend, he does not have to notify him about the gift. He said, come to someone's house. To start, okay, where do we see Shinem? It says in the pasuk, Moshe lo yoda ki koren eir panav. Moshe did not know. Now, of course, later on, Moshe figured out he didn't saw it, and he had to cover his face. But initially, Hashem gave him the gift of making his face shine. Hashem didn't say, I'm giving you now a gift. No, he gave it to him without notifying him. That's a raya. When you give a gift to a person, don't notify him. Amazon, was not that way.
Amazon. We give gifts with Amazon, and they don't tell the person
it's coming from
that's
who?
coming from
us.
Problem. Like the guy's like, oh, it was from you. I had no idea.
Right. So we'll see soon that it's not. You have to notify them.
So if you get something in the mail, you should know it's from me.
Tzedakah for cat. The kud of tzedakah is the person needs something, and you mal his chisorim. And therefore, carrot, he should not know who it comes from.
Right.
Matana is meant to be kid of levavis. If you don't tell him who it's from, the whole purpose is not being, you're not gaining anything. So, like Mishlech Manis we have, right? It says the Mefarshim explained the vart is kid of avos. So if that can come, he should have this in his house. This gift you gave him. No, you want to show the comes to me. So but this was the havmin is what it says. Giving a gift, you don't have to notify. That information. In fact, the Gemara Beitza. It says in the Gate Shabbos, which is a gift from the Eibusher to Klal Yisrael, das ki ani Hashem mekadishchem. So what does it mean? You should know. Oh, Malakash Baruch Hu Hashem told to Meisha, matana toivo yesh li bebeis genaza. I have matana, a very good matana in my treasure. The Shabbos was in the Shabbos, and Vakish literally someone give it to Yisrael. So before Hashem didn't go give it to them, they should not know about maybe what would be giving without notifying. Giving to them meaning maybe naturally a person would feel rested on the seventh day of the week. I don't know how Hashem would have given Shabbos without notifying Klal Yisrael, but somehow, first of all, Hashem told them before I'm giving to them, go and tell them. You can from this medrash, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Hanoisen Pasletin. If a person gives a gift to a child, a piece of bread to a child, you should notify the mother that you gave it. Because what's the whole point? Like if the child is hungry with something else, a hungry kid, you give him to eat. But the vart is you want to show the family some love and some closeness and friendship. So you want to give a gift to the child. The point that the family should know about it. The child won't tell his mother. So
she should know that
that comes to me, yeah, and I want to keep close. Yes, yeah, lastly, okay, so lastly, Matanach Shuvan is the email. Lastly, Ois Simon, later we'll see soon, should make also a simon to notify on the child. It says soon, you make a simon on his head of the food you gave him. You know, should come on the father, the mother should ask him, what is this on your head? This one, same food. So last, what's it? Lastly, Ois Simon, she mechlano, if the child will eat this before he comes to his mother, the family will never know that the child never got a gift. But the mother will see the Ois on the forehead of the child, and she's going to ask him, me also, who did this to you? Who did this to you? He's going to say, Pliny, this person did this to me. Gam, no son, pass, also gave me pass. So he notified the mother that I received the gift from this man. Because she says, will be known to the Avi that he loves them. The is going to be French by Yidden. So what got to the Gemara is a kasha. The kasha is we just finished saying that Hashem did not tell Moshe that his face became shiny, and therefore we learn from the one doesn't have to notify those up in the face from Shabbos that you do have to notify. Like kasha by Moshe's face, everyone was going to see and tell Moshe, and they have to cover it. Says anyone's going to look, they want to tell him, he's going to find out. The whole point of it, like Rashi explained, that they should know about it. A person will never find out, might not find out about it, then he should not give him a deal. Shabbos also, so why Shabbos? Why tell them I'm giving you Shabbos? Give them Shabbos, and they're going to find out. They're going to get Shabbos. Why notify them? I have something to give you, and then give it. Give it, and they'll it's a little gluya. Says the Shabbos. So referring here not to the Shabbos itself. Obviously, if you give them the mitzvah of Shabbos, they're going to know they have Shabbos. You have to tell them I'm notifying you in advance. But the schar of Shabbos, David didn't have to tell the Klal Yisrael, but he told them, and that's why, because it will never be revealed. Let's finish up next week. You should notify the mother. My Ovid lay, how should you notify the mother? Like I said before, maybe the child will eat it up before, and he's never going to know. Shayef lay mishcha, go smear. Mishcha means oil. Umali lay kuchla. And fill it with kuchla is like paint, like
blue paint.
A blue paint the person puts on his eyeliner, like creams. That's what you should do. So that should stay there. We're worried for kshafim. People are going to think it's something suspicious here. But he's involved in kishuf. So the food that you gave, you gave the child a piece of chocolate, take a little chocolate, smear it on him, and he comes home, the mother's going to see this chocolate. What is chocolate? But this man gave me the chocolate. Old mitzvah Hashem gave with the Hesya. Chutz mishabes, Betzin gave Shabbos in between a word Beini u ben bnei Yisrael, between mir and dir. The lashon is It says Bein Yubein. So that's a lashon that was given with sin and not with it wasn't public. Rashi is like this. It said it said that Mashiach will come. The goyim are going to be punished because they didn't receive the Torah from the Eibusher, right? They came to our point, they didn't want to take the Torah. They'll get punished. I'll do the mitzvahs. What did they punish? If Shabbos wasn't public and not notified, so why should they get punished for not doing that mitzvah? The Mashal says, doesn't understand. The Rashi, which is another interesting to pshat. Goy is a goy should chayv mitzvah. Goy who keep Shabbos chayv mitzvah. So if the goyim didn't even know Shabbos, and Ram there says that it's the only chayv mitzvah if the goy does it. He does it in order to do a day of. If he happened to be sleeping the whole 24 hours of Shabbos and didn't do any malach, he doesn't get killed. He only gets killed if he was up and he wanted to take a day of rest to fulfill this union of Shabbos. So if the goyim don't even know that Yidden keep Shabbos, so how could a goy get killed for keeping Shabbos in this Eifen when there's no such a mitzvah of Shabbos? That's what the Mashal says. Rashi is different. But upon him, if it was done in private, B'nei B'neichem, the shaila is why the goyim get killed about Shabbos? So it says, not the same answer. So, Shabbos, Shabbos was notified to the Yidden in public. When we said, so she means there was a schar of Shabbos that wasn't notified to anyone. Another answer, they should also publicize the schar of Shabbos. What does it mean? But the Neshama Yisera. But the Neshama Yisera we have on Shabbos, the third aspect of Shabbos. First of all, keep Shabbos was known to us. Secondly, the Schar of Shabbos also, but the extra Neshama we get on Shabbos, that was not known. That was only you didn't know the secret. Where do we see? What's the Neshama? He said, I'm Shum, the Lakish Neshama. He said, nothing because Baruch Adam. Maybe she gives an extra neshama to a person out of Shabbos, on head of Shabbos. When we tell you Shabbos, take it away from them on Mitzvah Shabbos. It says Shavas vayinofash. Shavas means after you finish completing Shabbos. Kivon Shavas. You push the word is vav yud. Vav yud is vei, is woe, and nofash is nefesh. So vei nefesh. Woe of the nefesh. Whoa, I lost my nefesh. So after a person, that's why we have to song him after Shabbos, right? Because the very nefesh, because the Shami say, what is the Shami? Rashi describes the Shami say the Pash, look at the Rashi, to Santa Rashi. We know Shami says a Hilik Kazach, Haruch Chazik in the Shami. Rashi Pash says the Pashtus. Reichev lev, to have a broad heart, Lemenucha ulesimcha, to rest and to rejoice. Why to have that? V'liyes pasuach l'revacha, to be opened very broadly. V'yeichel v'yishta, so you'll be able to have a good appetite and eat and drink a lot. V'einaf shekotzo love, he's not disturbed by anything else. A person's under stress, he can't eat. On Shabbos, especially Neshama, to be relaxed. In order to get good essen, geschmack essen, and not have any diabetes. Okay, the Imam Sheikh with Hashem tomorrow, next week, Monday.
The secret the Rebbe brings down that the Neshama Yisera for Shabbos he used summon to big misameach the Neshama since it feels very sad that Shabbos is passing by.
Yeah.
Then he says by Yom Tov you don't need to because the special foods that you ate on Yom Tov are like the summon. Yeah. And then he goes on to say that also there's people that don't hold that the Seudah for Rosh Chodesh also the need of Neshama Yisera about Rosh Chodesh
also comes into but just one thing here, tasteless here. There's not to say the whole tasteless, but there's an interesting because the Keselim Chagenu. So we touch Pashut like Rashi means that the moon is hidden.
It's hidden.
But
it's the first day. There's nothing else showing yet.
There's a taste of Halacha also. When it comes to the tefillis, first of all, with the Makriv on Rosh Hashanah, the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. There's Musaf of Rosh Hashanah that the Torah tells them. There's also every Rosh Chodesh is a Musaf. So with the Makriv also, the Pale, there's a Svar in Taisvis brought down from a Rishon. For Rabbi there was no soy Rosh Chodesh that the Rabbi Tam brings rayas that you can't say that. So what does it mean? Keser means it's hidden. And the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah, we don't mention in the tefillahs. So the Sfardim don't mention at all the tefillahs. We mention, I believe in our tefillah, we mention Milvad Eilas HaChedesh, not to say the Perek, Milvad HaChedesh. The Sfardim don't even mention that because of another reason why they don't want to confuse the Chazan. They also have to say that on Yom Tov, you don't say the Musafim, because you don't want to confuse the Chazan. What the Sfardim is Bekitza. The calls come from the Stasis here, but Kisui means another Taichi is nicht that the Levana is Bekisui, nor the Karban is ein Bekisui, but the Montes nicht in the Tefillah, the Karban is of Musaf and Shoshana.
Very interesting. The Ashkaf, Shabbos, Essen Shabbos.